The market is heading towards a balanced market, and this means there's more negotiations between buyers and sellers, and this is the return of conditions. Not the condition of your house, but conditions that if they aren't met, you can still back out of the deal. In this video, I'm going to cover how the seller's market that we've had is affecting conditions, the difference between conditions and clauses, the most common conditions, and how you can use conditions as a negotiating tool for buyers and for sellers. Welcome to the channel. I'm Stephen Ho, your local GTA real estate expert since 2010, and I'm making weekly videos to make real estate simple and easy to understand so you can make the best decision for your largest investment. Like and subscribe if you want to build generational wealth through real estate. Now, we've had a seller's market for the better part of the last decade. Many times buyers were faced in competition, facing against 5, 10, 15, 20 or more other offers on a single property. Aside from selling for way over asking price, many of these offers had no conditions. Now that the Bank of Canada has increased interest rates up 400 basis points this year alone in 2022, borrowing costs are too expensive right now, and a lot of buyers are taken out of the market. Many listings are sitting on the market and they're not selling. With little to no competing offers, buyers can now include conditions in their offer. To think back when the market was crazy, buyers had 15 to 20 minutes to look at a house and then make $1 million purchase decision with no protection, no conditions. It's kind of crazy how far we've come. Now, there is a difference between conditions and clauses. Conditions should not be confused with clauses. Now, in a standard typical offer, there's already going to be pre-printed clauses that outlines the sale, of how it's going to happen. Most of these kind of protect the seller and how that's going to be laid out. Now, clauses, not to be confused with Santa. However, buyer agents can add their own clauses to the agreement to, say, protect the buyer or to outline what the buyer would want in the sale. For example, the buyer wants a few more visits before closing, or that the seller needs to fix a few things before closing, or that the seller warrants and represents that there was never a grow up in this house. But none of these clauses can actually kill the sale. On the other hand, conditions are for the buyer's protection, that if the conditions are not met, the buyers can still back out of the deal. Some of the common conditions could include financing, home inspection, status certificate review, and even now we're seeing a lot of condition on the sale of buyer's property. Now, buyers typically need to submit a deposit with their offer once it's accepted within 24 hours. Now, these conditions, there's usually, 4 or 5, maybe 7 business days for the buyer to do their due diligence to satisfy these conditions. If these conditions are not met, the buyers can back out and get their deposit back in full. Now, a home inspection is the opportunity for the buyer to bring a professional home inspector to come in, make sure that there's no hidden expenses or hidden repairs that they didn't know was either behind the walls or in the attic or anything like that that requires major repairs. Now, this condition isn't really meant for renegotiating the price, but when it comes to a home inspection, there could be some times where you might need to negotiate. So for example, if during a home inspection, they find that the basement is leaking, the buyer might ask for the seller to compensate for the repair, or that the seller repairs the leak before closing. So here's an example. I recently sold a house where the buyer's inspection revealed that there was mold in the attic. My sellers were selling this house that had a tenant in it, and we knew it wasn't presented as nice as it could, staging and things like that. And the buyers wanted $4,000 in compensation to remove the mold. I told them that we were confident that we can wait till after the tenant moves out, clean up the place, maybe even stage it, and we were confident that we can sell it for $20,000 or $30,000 more than we sold it for. The choice was up to the buyers. They could take it or they could leave it. They took it. Now, financing condition is probably more important now than ever, not only because of rising interest rates and the stress tests, but Because of the appraisal. The lender needs to appraise the house to make sure that the house is actually worth what you paid for it. Having a property appraisal is out of our control. If the property is not appraised to the price that you paid for it, the buyer is responsible to cover the difference. They need to go find a bigger down payment to cover that difference. Sellers need to consider it though, because if this buyer's lender isn't appraising the property, the next buyer might not appraise it either. So the option is to either reduce the price, or you can take your chance and put it on the market and sell it again. The status certificate review condition is for condos. The status certificate is about a 300-page document that outlines financial statements, condo bylaws, any litigation they might be in, and upcoming maintenance fee increases or plans. With a condo purchase, you're buying a percentage of the entire building. You need to know the financial statements, how they are financially. Do they have money in the bank? Do they have any litigation that's pending? Do they have increased maintenance fees or any special assessments that the owners are responsible for? I've had clients where the maintenance fee was going to be increasing significantly, and the buyers offered to cover the difference between the increase for the next year to incentivize the sale. As the market slows down, the condition on the sale of buyer's property is becoming more common. I'm seeing it a lot more often now, and this is quite the condition. We haven't seen this in many years because of the seller's market we've had. Now that the market has slowed down, buyers want to make sure that they can sell their house before they can buy this house. Now, this condition is typically longer. It's probably 30 to even 60 days. And this, if the buyer can't sell their house, they can still back out of the purchase that they made and get their deposit back. Now, this condition has to be included with an escape clause. So the seller can continue to market their property, and if they receive another offer, then the buyer, the original buyer, has 24 hours to decide whether they want to go ahead with this purchase or back out because of the sale of their house might not be going so well. These conditions are for the buyer's protection. We've been spoiled in a seller's market for the better part of the last decade. Now buyers can get their conditions in offers. Now sellers, this isn't all bad news. Once the deal becomes firm after all of these conditions, you know it's going to go through and you have more confidence because the deal is more solid and there's not any more surprises. So how can conditions be used as a negotiating tool for buyers and sellers? Buyers, you can use conditions as part of negotiations. You can include the conditions in your initial offer, and depending on your confidence of your financing or even the home inspection, you can include these offers, and as you negotiate the price, you might want to even remove them to show strength in your offer. Sellers, just as buyers can use conditions as negotiations, you can use them too. If buyers want the conditions in their offer, maybe you negotiate a better price. Now, knowing that the buyers are going to have certain conditions, we can get ahead of it. We can do a home inspection, have the report in hand, and get ahead of that. By getting ahead of any surprises, we can provide buyers with the home inspection and do our own due diligence and give them the home inspection before they even put an offer in. And once they put in the offer, we already marketed our property accordingly based on the home inspection report, and that's how we can negotiate. We want to know that if there's any surprises, that we know about it beforehand. If you're considering buying and selling, you deserve to have a competent agent who's a strong negotiator who can help you through the process and protect your purchase and sale of your largest asset. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.